All right, we're getting ready to take a trip in the Odyssey, so I just kind of wanted to show you what I usually do before a road trip, kind of an inspection that I do. I just try and look over the whole car as frequently as I can, but before a road trip for sure. So let's take you in and get started. All right, and to get started, you're just gonna need a good flashlight, and then I like a mirror. This I think is a 3-inch telescoping mirror. So you can buy these online. It doesn't have to be brand name Matco or anything. So, all right. So up top, what I like to look over, obviously I'm going to check the fluid levels. So come in here, take a look at my power steering fluid. It's full. I'm going to top off my washer fluid. You can take your flashlight and kind of put it on your antifreeze, and it looks like I need to add a little. It's not quite at the full line, so we'll add a little. And then you're going to look at your belt, your serpentine belt. 12 cracks per inch is the maximum. So I don't see any cracks on my belt. So that's all the fluids on this side. I'm going to check the oil in a minute. But I'm basically going to look down around here too and look for any major fluid leaks. What I also want to look for is any lines that are sitting right up against each other. If they have any kind of chafing or even wiring harnesses. This time I don't think I'm going to pull the cover. Usually I'll pull that too and look it over. Make sure there's nothing leaking. Oh, I don't see anything down here leaking. Obviously on this side, I'm going to make sure oil cap's tight, and I'm going to check my transmission fluid level as well in a minute. Really, you want to check your transmission fluid with the fluid warm, the engine warm. So pull this little cover off. Give me a little more room to look down here. I've got some stuff going on in here. I got a little extension cord in here because I've got it ran to a battery charger in the winter time, and then I've got it ran out to the front of the grill. Just with some zip ties, so works good. Another thing you want to look at is your battery, your terminals. I have grease on there to keep them from corroding, but you don't want them all corroded, and they almost grow like a powder on there is what it looks like. It's battery. It's the corrosion, so you want to clean that off and then apply an anti-corrosive coating, and that's what I've got on mine. So right, but mainly I'm looking for any signs of fluid leaks down here. That's the biggest thing. So those are your transmission lines right there. I don't see any leaks on that. This big hose is the radiator hose. So you got the upper right here, and that goes up to the down to the lower. So you're gonna look around. Right, and then this is your brake fluid right here. So you're going to want to make sure that that's topped off, and it is. All right, so the next thing you want to do is with your mirror. One area that Odysseys are prone to leak is right here at this solenoid. So this thing right here, they leak down between. You can see the one half right there. The top half bolts, this bolt goes through, and there's a gasket right by my finger. And then the other half is actually sealed down right by my finger here. I'll get a flat blade screwdriver. That'll be easier. Alright, so as I was saying, these Odysseys like to leak. So the two places they leak are on this spool valve is what it's called. And it would be right where my screwdriver is. Right here is the upper half, where the upper half separates from the lower half. The lower half bolts to the cylinder head, which the cylinder head is where I have, the top of the cylinder head is where I have my screwdriver pointing to. Then you can see this sealer down in here. Let's see if I can get a better view. There we go.
you can see the sealer. This is actually installed wet where I have my screwdriver at. So that's the other place it will leak. And it's down here, really, that you need to pay more attention to. It will leak typically along, you'll see oil along here. So this is the top of the cylinder head. You can kind of make out the sealer where the bottom half of the spool valve bolts to the cylinder head. The upper half ends right here, so around where the oil dipstick tube goes down. Right here you'll usually see oil. The oil will run down here and fill up this whole area around where the dipstick tube goes on this little boss area. Let me see if you can kind of see it there. It's tough. In person you can see it a lot better. But it'll fill up this whole area. This bolt right here will be covered in oil. It'll run off the front and then it'll dump all over into your alternator, and it'll ruin your alternator, and it will ruin your trip. So alternator is not cheap on these. The spool valve is not an easy job. If you have to do the top half, it's not terrible. There's some videos on that, and actually what I like to do it is just remove the bolts from up here. So that bolt, and then this other one up here. If you're just doing the top half, you can remove those three, and then separate the top half from the lower half, and then all you have to do to get it out is disconnect this electrical connector and this one, and you can sneak it out. You got to take the engine cover off, but you can sneak it out. There are some other videos where they take this entire wiring harness out. You don't have to do that if you're just doing the top half. So, but you really want to inspect this area quite frequently for oil leaks. Now, there's a bunch of dirt and stuff on mine, but there's no oil on there. I don't have any oil on my finger. So then I'm going to take my handy dandy mirror, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to look at the front of the engine where the valve cover meets the cylinder head there. And I'm going to look and make sure along there that I don't see any oil. You can kind of make out my gasket there. See if you can see it. It's kind of blue color. That's the valve cover gasket. So if that's leaking, there it is. You can see the valve cover gasket now. If that's leaking, that will also drop oil onto the alternator and destroy it. So I'm essentially just going to run my mirror down the whole front of the engine and look around and make sure there's no oil leaks. Then I can take my mirror down here and look over the engine, look for any type of oil leaks. I don't have any leaks at all. All right. Then I'm going to come over here and do the same thing in this area. There's my starter down there. All right. And then I'll go to the back side of the engine and look at the exact same thing back there. I can actually see that from the bottom pretty easily. So you really just want to look it over for any type of leaks. Your radiator hoses here, that fitting that I got the light shining right on, that will actually corrode, and then your hoses will leak antifreeze. So you want to look for anything like that on your radiator. You want to kind of look and pay attention to the seam there where the plastic meets the metal there. Those little things with gaps on them, the little metal, the aluminum piece there. If you see any evidence of leaking, then your radiator needs changed. If you see any discoloration of the coolant will like dry up, it'll form like a powder almost. So I'm just gonna look it all over, and I don't see any oil leaks or any massive problems like that. All right. course, we're going to check the oil level. I'm not going to show you how to do that. Look it up in your manual if you don't know how to do that. Check the oil, transmission fluid, follow the manual for that. I'm going to top this off in a minute. Well, let's go ahead and get it up in the air, and we're going to look it over while it's in the air too. Another thing I'm going to do is check tire pressure all the way around. If I'm going real far, a lot of times I'll go ahead and pull the spare out, and I'll check that one as well. I try and check the spare every 6 months or so. All right, and the Odyssey, jack it on the front, I'll show you. And then your jack stands go right under this piece here where the beefed up portion of your pinch weld is. That's where you'd put your jack as well if you were jacking up just one single wheel on the side of the road to put your spare on. And then your other jacking point, if you're wanting to lift the front and do both sides at the same time, the front is right there. You can kind of see an eyelet in it. Your jack's going to go right there. The back has a very similar spot. All right, I'll kind of show you in progress. So I've kind of got the back jacked up real high. I've got my jack stand sitting under it. Get down on the ground. Sometimes I'll come in from the back with the jack. Usually if it's nice outside, I'll come in all the way straight from the back. It's a lot easier. But I've got these set right underneath. The other one's set under it too. But you want to center these up, your stands, and then you want to count the teeth. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This pinch weld is completely level across the bottom, so I need to just make sure my garage floor is pretty level. So I count these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can kind of see where I've got my jack under there, and it looks like fluid under here, but that is not fluid. That is I've got some stuff on here to keep it from corroding, so it's picking up a bunch of dirt, unfortunately. That's what it does. But there's your rear jack point, and I'll show you once I have the jack off of it. All right, so then I move back to the front. So I start with the front, raise the front up a little bit to where the jack stand is at right now. So it's lowest setting, at least on the 6-ton. I like these, by the way. They're really sturdy. And then I'll go to the back, and then I'll raise that up to about 6 notches. And then I come back to the front and raise that up. And then I'm gonna raise this up to 6 notches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're up a little higher than we need to be, which is just fine. And then I'm gonna put this little safety end. I'll go to the other side and do the same. All right, and now it is fully supported by both jack stands, and it's got plenty of clearance under it. I could go higher if I wanted to. You really want to make sure when you get these stands in, obviously the pin's in, and this pin's going to slide back and forth, that's fine. But you really want to try and get it centered in the arch of this here. You want it down here. You don't want it, the weight of the car up here, because it could slide down. Not only that, but it also takes this and it puts this in a bind, either this way or that way, and you really don't want to flex this steel. That's how you can actually have this break. So this, all your weight is going straight down instead of it trying to push down at an angle. That's the most secure you can have it. So you got all 4 of them under there. All right, and the last thing I do before I get under it, really any car, when I've got it jacked up, I would hate for the car to fall off right now, but I would rather the car fall off right now than with me under it, right? So what I usually do is give it a good wobble back and forth. Back at the back too. Okay, it is sturdy. And then now I can get under it. And you don't want to do that until after you check this next thing too. That'll take you down and show. All right, before rocking the car, you really want to check that all 4 feet are fully seated against the ground. If one of these feet is up at all, then it's not going to transfer the weight from up here all the way down. it's going to make this stand a lot more unstable. That's the reason I like the 6-ton over the 3-ton, is it's got a wider stance, so they're less apt to do that. So, but you really want to look under it and make sure all 4 of them are fully seated all the way around before you go wobbling the car either. All right, so we're under the car and we're gonna look it over. Again, I'm gonna pay particular attention under the radiator to any hoses. So these are the transmission cooler lines. Make sure they're not leaking transmission fluid. Again, that portion that you can see the aluminum where my light is, where it clips around the radiator. Look, they never bent those. You can see those are not bent right there, but oh well. Nothing I'm gonna do about it now. But that's where it would leak typically. So you want to look for any fluid leaks like antifreeze, power steering fluid, anything like that. So I'm gonna look it over under here. I can see all the hoses. All right. And then looks like we have some kind of oil leak from something that I'll have to take a look at. It's always wonderful. You get under one that you expect to be dry, but it's not. And I don't know where that leak is coming from. Oftentimes this filter housing right here that I'm pointing my flashlight at will leak and cause that. Get up there with a mirror too and see where this oil's coming from, but I do have an oil leak of some sort. It's not terrible. I wouldn't be scared to take it out on the road with this little of a leak. It's actually not leaving any on my floor either, so that's another good sign. Oh, I'm just going to be looking it over really for anything out of the ordinary. You come over here on your suspension and you look at your suspension. You look at your ball joint, the boot. You really don't want to see cracks on it. We can also check it for play by wiggling the wheels. So this is the outer tie rod. You want to check that for cracks. You want to check that your CV boots are not split. They would be slinging grease everywhere if they were. So there's your other CV boot. This is your inner tie rod here. It looks like the power steering rack and pinion have a little leak right there. It's nothing terrible. Okay. And this is the sway bar in links right here. There's the upper mount for it. Oh, the boots aren't torn. I'll go over to the other side. Look at the same thing. CV, ball joint, tie rod, end links. Those look good. And that inner one looks good too. The CV joint boot. Inner joint on my tie rod looks good. So I don't see any oil leaks coming from. There's the timing belt tensioner. That's a really critical component. If that's leaking, that can be a very bad thing. So that's something to pay particular attention to. Okay. Then we'll scoot back a little bit. All right. So I said that you could see the valve covers a lot better from the bottom. You can see right up there, where I'm shining most of my flashlight there, you can see the blue, you can see the data tag right there, and right above it there's the top of the cylinder head where the valve cover meets, that blue seal. So that the valve covers like to leak. You want to pay attention to them. And on this side you've got another spool valve similar to the back, or the front rather, that can leak too. It's not as common, and it's not, if it leaks, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to FOD anything out or destroy anything like your alternator on the front. So I don't see anything down here that's alarming. Check your exhaust, your boots here, or your isolator. This is your exhaust flex pipe, so this can actually kind of come split apart on you, and you would notice it if it was splitting. So I don't see anything there. You can actually look too where the exhaust comes together, and you can usually see discoloration if it's leaking, and I don't see any discoloration on any of these. So that's another thing you can pay particular attention to. Okay, same thing with that one there. While you're in here too, you might as well just kind of turn the wheels around. Make sure you don't see any bulges of the tire, any bubbles on the tire, if you will. A bulge would indicate, or a bubble on the tire would indicate that you have a broken belt on the tire inside the plies. That is a potential for a blowout. All right, and then we're gonna move down and we're gonna just go down the whole run of the car. And what you really want to look at is these are your brake lines, and you want to make sure that they aren't rubbing against anything. So look that over. Anywhere where they're exposed. Now, in areas where they're not exposed, you really can't see. Again, we're back to the exhaust. We're kind of gonna look for any leaks. Now you can kind of see the top of this part of the exhaust is beginning to develop a leak. You can see the stuff right here falling off, and I'm knocking off with my finger. That is usually indicative of a leak beginning, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. It's not going to stop my trip. There's another mount for the exhaust. It's not torn. This hose was touching this hard line up here. I don't feel a flat spot. I could get my mirror and take a look at it. Okay, then we're going to come along the bottom and the back. And this is the fuel tank. Okay. And I know this stuff looks like leaks. It's not. It's the stuff I sprayed under here. So that if you spray any kind of undercoating to prevent rust, you're going to see what looks like leaks. So it's kind of tough to tell what's a leak when you have this stuff on here. But there really isn't anything to leak back here other than the struts. So I'll look everything over. Brake lines, that would be another thing that could leak. But all right. So something I have been monitoring is that right there. I'm looking to see when those get worse. You see the cracks on that. I'm gonna have to replace this eventually, this bushing. This is the trailing arm, rear trailing arm bushing. Let's take a look at the other side. I've been monitoring them. They don't really seem to be getting any worse. So I'm not gonna be doing them just quite yet. But that's something you can kind of continue to inspect and pay attention to and change it when it gets worse. Okay. All right. You take your wheel. I have the emergency brake on, so don't see any bulges in the wheel. This is the rear brake caliper. We probably should look at the front ones as well. Make sure there's no leaks from either the rubber hose right here, this little rubber hose, or even the caliper itself can leak as well. So I don't see, usually you'd see brake fluid pooled up down here if it's leaking. All right, let's go to the other side. Okay, that line looks good and that caliper isn't leaking. Don't see anything down there. Now, frequently as well, you're going to want to check your brake pads for wear. And that's easiest really with the tire off, and you're going to look through this little hole right here, looking straight in at it. I've changed my pads within the last 2 years, so I'm not worried about them. I checked them the last time the tires were off pretty recently. So let's go back up to the front, and we're going to look at this brake hose here. And it goes all the way up to there. The caliper is a dual piston caliper. It is not leaking. You can look at the front side of your ball joints too. Sometimes your cracks will be on the front only and not on the back. On look good. Same with your in links. Okay. I'd say she's ready for another trip. So that's really all I look over. I mean, you're not going to catch everything, but the more frequently you look, you're going to stay on top of maintenance that your car needs. I need to write this down, that this, whatever's leaking here is developing an oil leak. I need to take a look at it, grab my mirror and see if I can spot it, but I think it's the oil filter housing starting to leak, if I had to guess. Alright, I don't think I covered this. So the brake fluid, you can see there's a maximum line and a minimum line on it. So the max line is right there, and then the min line is down here. So it's got to be in between. Now, as your brake pads wear, the fluid level's gonna go down. So I filled these up when I did the brakes, so it's come down a little bit. It doesn't have to be full. And in fact, when it gets down to the bottom, it's a sealed system, so it shouldn't leak. When it gets down to the bottom, then you really know your pads are due. So I didn't know if I covered that. So another thing that's just general maintenance that I hadn't really covered was checking your wiper blades before a trip. So my wiper blades are starting to get there. Your wiper blades should kind of stand straight up on the windshield if they're new. They shouldn't be separating any, so they're not separating. I can check the back ones too. The back wiper. This one's easier to see. So you can kind of see where it's bending over. These wiper blades are getting there. I might just go ahead and order a set. But they start kind of warping after years. They dry out. So you really want them to be able to be kind of flexible. These are still flexible. Probably fine. But when they get dry and brittle, they'll actually split and tear off of here. So you want to catch them before they get to that point. Okay, and then on the brake pads, I just wanted to kind of show you. You can see that pad there. You can see the backing and the pad material. There's still quite a bit of meat on that pad. You can walk around and look at all the pads that way too from the outside. You won't be able to check the back pad this way. Let's see. There you go. You can see that. You can see the backer and the pad. Oh, there's plenty of pad left. These rotors on these pads on these Odysseys, they eat them. They eat them alive. Your tires. You want to check your tires as well. Make sure so you can see this little piece right here. That's called your wear bar. And when the tire wears and this is even, this surface is even with the tire, that means your tire is done. So I've still got some life on that tire. These front ones, however, they are getting there. They are almost there. You can really see they don't have far to go. So I will be changing these tires very soon here, but they do have a little bit more life until they're done. All right, and that's really all I look over. You know, it seems like an awful lot of work to get it up in the air, but this is really where you want to catch a problem. You don't want a problem while you're out on your road trip. This is kind of where you start to eliminate some of those things. So I'm a big believer in just trying to catch it early. The more you look it over, the more problems you're going to catch early and you're going to tackle before they become a problem that puts you on the side of the road. All right, so again, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I really appreciate everybody that has. I'd appreciate you if you hit that subscribe button or the like button or comment. It'll help me continue to make more content. I've been working on the Odyssey and our son's Accord quite a bit now, but I'm going to get to working on my truck a little bit here to get it prepared for the summer. And then I'll be working on our 2 Volkswagens as well as other cars too. So you'll see other content, not just Honda or Odyssey specific content. I work on tons of different cars.
So I've even got a jet ski engine down here that I've got to start rebuilding. So be on the lookout for more content. Make sure you subscribe. I really appreciate everybody that has subscribed so far. So thanks again for watching.